Hello everyone. I would like to discuss with you today about what we call the common terms that are being used in the preparation of legal document. Okay, so sa mga dokumento na legal, lalo-lalo na yung mga dokumento na sinasubmit natin or sinusumite natin sa Korte Suprema o kaya sa mga korte, okay, o sa mga police stations and any other government agencies requires some formats and some terms that are specifically defined if for purposes of the resolving a particular incident or crime. Like for example, if we go into the first terminology that is commonly used in legal documents, makikita natin palagi yung term na crime. So what is a crime? So a crime is an act of commission or omission in violation of law. Meaning to say, these acts, the act of commission and omission, are punishable by the law itself. And if we talk about law, specifically, it talks about criminal law of the Philippines or the revised penal code of the Philippines. Whether it will be book 1 or book 2, it doesn't matter for as long as it is punishable by the laws of the Philippines. So that is a crime. So there are two acts. Dalawa yung tinutukoy dito na crime, na act before mo mabuo ang tinatawag nating crime or krimen. First is an act of commission. Yung paggawa mo ng isang bagay na pinagbabawal ng batas. That is an act of commission. Halimbawa, sinasaad sa saligang batas ng bansang Pilipinas sa Revised Penal Code of the Philippines na bawal ang pumatay ng tao. Okay? And you killed somebody else. So yon, the act of killing is already a crime defined under the Revised Penal Code, which is either murder or homicide, depending on the circumstances, okay, that surrounds the commission of the act. Okay? But what is most important there is the act that you have done is in violation of the law of the Philippines and it is being penalized. That qualifies your action as a crime. Next one. Ano pa ba? Act of omission. Kanina, act of commission with the letter C. Ngayon naman, act of omission. So what is an act of omission? Ito naman ay ang paggawa or hindi paggawa ng isang bagay na dapat sana ay ginawa mo according sa ating batas. So, ibig sabihin, ang batas natin sinasabi na kapag ikaw ay isang politiko, kailangan mo maging honest at hindi ka magkukurap ng pera ng kabangbayan, okay? Pera ng mga tao. But once you're there, what do you do? Nilustay mo ang pera ng mga tao by means of using the tax collections for your personal gain. Okay? Yung hindi mo pagsunod, hindi mo paggalaw na aayon doon sa nakasaad sa ligang batas ay tantamount to what we call as a crime. Krimen yon. Usually, ang ina-example natin dito sa act of omission is yung act of suicide. Well, sa ating batas, ang nakalagay doon, pag suicide, may tinatawag na suicide pero hindi natin ma-qualify siya as a crime kasi yung biktima mismo ang siya ring salarin. Okay? Pero, ang tao na nakakita sa ibang tao na magpapakamatay or magkukumit ng suicide, okay, at walang ginawa upang pigilan yung taong magpapakamatay, iyon ay isang kasalanan or isang ipinagbabawal sa batas ng Pilipinas. Otherwise, you will be regarded as an accessory or a person acting to or supporting the act of committing the suicide. Okay? Assisting suicide na yung kaso noon. Na magiging offense mo doon. Okay? So, magiging crime siya. So, remember, in a crime, there is always an act. An act either commission or omission of those that are being prescribed under the law of the Philippines, particularly the revised penal code. Okay, so that is a crime. Another one that you will encounter in a legal document is the term felony. Ano ba ang pinagkakaiba ng crime at saka felony? So, sa isang krimen kasi class, yung act, pwede mong sabihin misdemeanor lang siya. So, dalawang klase din. Meron yung malala at saka medyo lang. Okay? Ibig sabihin yung the degree of the act that has been done to harm others or to the detriment of the other party is not as heinous as the other. Okay? So, kapag sinabi mong misdemeanor, ito yung tinatawag nating petty crimes. Petty crimes na usually hindi naman ang penalty ay magiging death penalty o kaya ang penalty is a grave one. Halimbawa, tinulak mo siya, nauntog siya, nagkaroon lang siya ng bukol. Is that a crime? It's a misdemeanor. Those things that are being done accidentally could also be qualified as a misdemeanor. Ang konting pagkakamali lang, hindi intensyon. O kung intensyon man, pero hindi naman ang intensyon ay patayin. Halimbawa, gusto lang niyang maging pangit ka, so sinulatan lang niya yung mukha mo ng lipstick. Lalaki ka. Is that a crime? Well, technically, it's not a crime, but it's a misdemeanor. Okay? You're going against the normal actuations of a particular sane person would create an act of misdemeanor. What about felony? Yung felony naman class, ito is a higher degree of offense or an act than the misdemeanor. So from petty crimes, yung small crimes natin, kapag itinaas mo ng konti, yun yung tinatawag nating felony. So any person who commits a felony is what we call a felon. Okay? So doon naman sa crime, of course, you can call him as a criminal if he is being convicted already. Okay, so there's a crime and felony. That's the difference. Now let's go to the evidence. So if there is a crime or a felony that has been committed, of course there will always be an investigation. And during an investigation, the police officers will be there, members of the law enforcement will be there, the SOCO, the NBI, and so on and so forth, will be at the crime scene. Now, what are they going to do in the crime scene is to investigate, and a part of the investigation would be the collection of what we call evidences. So what are these evidences? Anong tinatawag nating ebidensya? This may refer to any document, things that can be found in order to prosecute a particular individual who is alleged to be the perpetrator or the accused in a particular crime. Okay? Ito yung pagkolekta or ito yung mga material na bagay, mga statements of the persons who were there and witnessed the crime or the incident. So, pwedeng testimony yan, pwede yan objects, okay, like for example, a knife for stabbing, the pistol if it is a incident of firing through a gunshot. Okay, so the illegal drugs or paraphernalia if it is about the violation of the Comprehensive Drugs Act. Okay, so it could be anything that will be helpful in the resolution of the case that are being taken from the crime scene or what we call evidence. Okay. It could be documentary, testamentary, or object evidence. You can already know these things, the different kinds of evidences once you study your subject on evidence. So there are kinds of evidences. One is testamentary, documentary, and of course the object evidence. Okay. The documentary, the object evidence could also pertain already to some other things as of now that we are in the digital world or the digital world. You may include the emails, okay, the communications, the screenshots of your communications could also be an evidence that can be produced now. Okay. Whether it falls on a documentary or object evidence, okay, you will find that later on your subject on evidence. I will not go deeper into that for as long as you know what is the meaning of the word evidence. So the word evidence, the simplest meaning of this are the things or the anything that you can found for the resolution of the case. Okay, yung pwedeng gamitin para ma-solve yung kaso. Those are evidences. These are of course taken entered or within the crime scene or a small radius depending on how the investigation is being conducted. Okay, so if there is a crime or there is a felony and there were evidences collected or taken from the crime scene, of course, okay, in a crime scene, there will always be an accused and a victim. So, meron at meron sa isang krimen, merong biktima at may isang akusado. Okay? The victim is the person who suffered harm from the accused. Okay? Ito yung tao na direktang naapektuhan nung act ng kabilang panig. Okay? So, a person who has been a victim, naging biktima, the subject of the crime is that particular person. You call him or her a victim. Yan. Physically, kung serious physical injuries yan, kung sino yung nasuntok, kung sino yung nagkabukol-bukol, yun yung biktima. Okay? If it is a verbal abuse, kung sino ang pinagsabihan ng hindi maganda, okay, yun ang biktima. So, whoever suffered from the act that is in violation of the law, okay, is what we call the victim. The person who is being directed, to whom the act is being directed, is what we call the victim. The complainant, of course, as I have mentioned last time sa inyong discussion, okay, complainant, ito yung tao, okay, either na siya yung biktima o kaya isang tao na may alam or kinalaman doon sa pangyayari or sa incident or sa krimen. Okay, na pumunta upang i-report yung insidente na yon. That is what we call a complainant. Paano kapag may knowledge ka, okay, nakita mo mismo yung pambubugbog ng asawang lalaki doon sa kanyang wife, okay, at dahil sa pambubugbog yun, nakita mong namatay yung biktima, namatay yung wife na binugbog. Okay, nakita mo siya, you are a witness, principal witness ka, nandoon ka nung binugbog at namatay yung babae. But you did not go and report the incident. Can you be considered as a complainant? No. Okay? So there are always two considerations. Okay? First is that you have personal knowledge of the facts of the circumstances or the incident or the crime. May alam ka personally. Hindi hearsay, alam mo sa iyong sarili, nakita mo sa pamamagitan ng nandoon ka o kaya narinig mo. At yung kinalalaman mo na yun ay sinabi mo or dinala mo sa taong may authority. Okay? May authority to investigate, may authority to help you, okay, in the resolution of the case. Complainant. Na ikaw, ang purpose mo na para dalhin yon, para i-report yon, ay magkaroon ka ng tinatawag nating justice. Okay? So you consider the purpose of the complainant, of the person, okay? The personal knowledge of that particular person, okay? The act of reporting to the authorities such knowledge or such information, and that the purpose of which is to raise claims against the perpetrator or offender. Okay, so yan ang complainant. So a complainant would be a witness, maybe a witness I should say, or the victim himself, or a concerned citizen. Okay, now next is plaintiff. What is a plaintiff? A plaintiff could also be the victim or the complainant. Ang plaintiff kasi, ito yung tawag doon sa tao, okay, na nag-file ng tinatawag nating complaint sa court, okay, but the complaint that was being filed is, or the case is a civil case. Ayan. Plaintiff ang tawag natin doon. Okay? Kapag yung kaso napunta na sa tinatawag natin. Kapag yung kaso nasa kamay pa ng mga police officers, ang tawag natin the victim and the accused. Kapag yung kaso final na doon sa court at nandoon na sa korte mismo, okay, ang naghain ng complaint, I should say, ay tinatawag na nating plaintiff. Okay. Yung sa kabila naman, tinatawag natin siyang defendant. Yung akusado, tinatawag naman natin siyang defendant. Okay, or the respondent. So the victim, sa kabila, accused. Complainant, okay, defendant. Plaintiff, respondent. Okay? So once there is, so yan yung victim, complainant, saka plaintiff. Punta tayo sa accused. So, akusado. So, sino mang tao, okay, na pinaparatangan ay tinatawag nating accused. Pinaparatangan gumawa ng isang bagay na bawal or pinagbabawal sa batas ay tinatawag nating akusado. Okay? Halimbawa, si A at saka si B magkasama. Nakita nila si C. Binugbog ni A si C. Okay? Pero nung nag-file ng kaso si si C, ang nilagay niya doon sa kaso niya, ang inireklamo niya si A at saka si B. Okay? Bakit natin sasali si B? Sabihin nyo, ma'am, bakit kasali si B? Kasi ang bumugbog lang naman sa kanya si A, physically. So, dapat siya lang ang accused. Okay? But since the complainant mentioned B, A and B, both of them, to be the persons who have done harm to him or her, then the both of them can be called as an accused. Okay? Parehas silang tatawagin nating akusado. Bakit? Parehas silang pinaparatangan ni A na gumawa ng bagay na hindi ka nais-nais sa kanya at pinagbabawal ng batas. Okay? Accused. Now, offender. Offender, what is the difference between the accused and the offender? Ito kasing accused, pwede kang akusahan na kahit wala kang ginawa. Okay? Gagaya ng example natin kanina. Hindi naman siyang bumugbog, hindi naman si B, pero sinama siya ni A, ni C sa complaint. Kaya siya tinawag din na accused. Okay? So the offender refers to that particular person who have done the wrong act in violation of the law. Okay? Ito yung mismong taong gumawa doon sa ipinagbabawal ng batas. Sa example natin kanina, it would only be A who would you refer as the offender. Siya lang ang tatawagin mong offender. Bakit? Siya lang yung bumugbog kay victim. Okay? Offender. Pero, si A at saka si B, tatawagin mong akusado dahil si victim named both of them in her complaint. Okay. Ngayon, respondent. What is a respondent? A respondent is any person who is bound to answer for any complaint that is brought against him. Okay? Sino man yung tao na sasagot doon sa mga pinaparatang sa kanya ay tinatawag nating respondent. Okay? Could be an offender, could be an accused, for as long as if he initiated the act to answer for any accusation or allegations made against him, then he is called as the respondent. Usually, respondent is a general term that could also be used not only within the sphere of the courtroom, could also be used outside the courtroom. Okay? What about the defendant? Well, respondent and defendant are two similar terms, akin to each other. Okay? Any person, you have to establish defenses. Okay? In a case that is filed against him, is called the defendant. Okay? Kung ikaw ay akusado ka, okay? at magbibigay ka ng statement mo to defend yourself, then you are called as a defendant. Sa respondent kasi, whether or not you are being accused or your participation is important in a case, basta sinagot mo lang yung communication, respondent ka. As a general term. Okay? Kapag sa defendant kasi, ibig sabihin, meron at merong na-file na case against you. That is why you need to defend yourself. Kaya tinawag siyang defendant. Respondent, titignan mo yung response from the term, the root word response, any person who would respond, okay, to a call, to an invitation, to a hearing, to a summon, to a notice, is called the respondent. However, if we call it as a defendant, it is more on the legal aspect of the defending yourself from any accusation or allegations. Okay? Example is a complaint or complaint affidavit. Next one. Once the accused is being tried, okay, and he is found guilty, then conviction may come at his end. What is a convict, or who is a convict? A convict is a person who has undergone the legal process before the court and has been found guilty beyond reasonable doubt and is made to suffer the penalty imposed by the law. Okay? Convict. Ito yung tao na naparatangan, dinipensa ang sarili, subalit na patunayan ng korte, siya talaga ay nagkamali sa kanyang ginawa at pinarusahan ng korte. Yan ang tinatawag natin convict. If there is no guilt beyond reasonable doubt that has been given by the court, then you cannot call any person as a convict. A convict can only be given to a person, okay, who has been tried and who has been found guilty beyond reasonable doubt and made to suffer the penalty imposed by law. Convict. Okay. Of course, if there is an accused, because there is a crime that has been committed, there are persons in charge to resolve the case. And the first responders are usually the arresting officers. Okay, arresting officers, these are the persons in authority, okay, who went to the crime scene and apprehend the accused. Okay, kung sino man yung makakakuha, okay, doon sa akusado, okay, at magdadala sa kanya before the court in custody of the law is what we refer as the arresting officers. Okay? So, madaling maintindihan yan sapagkat lagi na ninyong nakikita, okay, at naririnig yung tinatawag nating arresting officers. Okay? Well, there are some aspects that you may ask there, yung tinatawag nating arresting officers. Sino ba yung mga arresting officers? Okay, kung civilian ang nag-aresto dyan, iti-turn over niya dyan yung akusado doon sa mga pulis at yung pulis na humawak doon sa kaso ang magiging or tatayo na tinatawag nating arresting officer. Okay? Because he is a person in authority. Okay? So, kapag hindi ka naman person in authority, well, of course, you cannot proceed with what we call an arrest unless in cases of acts that are done in flagrante delicto and you are and that is what we call the civilian arrest. Okay. So, what other terms do you need to know? The complaint. Complaint is a legal document already that has been prepared, okay, by the victim or by the complainant, okay, before a person with authority. Okay. Ito ay isang dokumento na ginagawa o kaya personal na ginagawa o kaya ginawa sa pamamagitan ng representative, okay, but with the presence of the complainant, at ipinapasa kung saan nakasaad yung mga claims, okay, yung mga allegations, yung accusations ng complainant against the respondent or the accused. Yan ang complaint. Ito ay ginagawa sa harapan or within the sala of a person with authority to administer oath. Like for example, abogado, judge, okay, those persons in authority, law enforcers. So those are. Remember this one. The complaint are always being signed by the person who had made it. Okay. If the complaint was being done by any other person, there must be an attestation clause, okay, that will be signed also by the person who is complaining or the complainant himself with the assistance, okay, and with the signature of the person in authority. Okay. Now what about information? Information already, okay, is another legal document that is being prepared, okay, not by the person who is complaining, but by the police officer. Okay. So parang ito yung referral. Because a complaint, okay, will be prepared by the person himself, and then kapag police ang nag-prepare dyan, okay, and this is already being submitted to court, tawag natin doon information. So the information later on is being certified by the prosecutor. Okay, after the determination of what we call a probable cause. It is only then that the formal complaint, okay, was filed before the court. Okay. So what is a probable cause? Probable cause. Probable cause, ito ay ang matinding dahilan or basehan, I should say. Ito ay yung matinding basehan kung saan natin makikita. These are the basis or the grounds for which we can determine that the accused, okay, may probably, okay, or have a high chance that the accused had really committed the crime. Ito yung mga basehan na isinasaalang-alang, okay, i-determine yan ng prosecutor kung may matinding dahilan, okay, or may matinding basehan upang sa ganoon ay i-prosecute natin or dalhin natin sa korte yung akusado. How does a probable cause being determined? By the information by the complaint. I-analyze yan ng prosecutor yung complaint na sinamitin mo, yung information na sinamitin mo. At doon niya ibabase, sa mga iproduce mong ebidensya, doon niya ibabase sa statements mo kung meron ng tsansa o malaking tsansa na ang pangyayari niyon ay nangyari talaga at ang akusado ay ginawa talaga yung krimen na yun. Okay, that's what we call a probable cause. Is there a reason, is there a big reason that you would believe that the situation or the incident that the complainant is claiming really transpired? And is there any ground for us to hold in detention the accused? Or is there any reason for us to, basing from the complaint and basing from the information submitted to the court, that there is a high chance that the accused really did the crime alleged against him? If there is, then the formal complaint is being filed in court. Okay? So if there is a probable cause, of course, there will be what we call as an issuance of the warrant of arrest or search warrant. Okay. Warrant of arrest, ito yung dokumento, okay, yung warrant of arrest, dokumento na ina-applyan ng mga police officers before the court, okay, asking the court to grant them the authority to arrest a person. Ibig sabihin, the term arrest, okay, is an act of persons in authority, okay, to take the physical body of a particular accused and bring him before the court for purposes of answering the allegations that are made against him. Yun ang purpose ng arrest. Arestuhin mo, ibig sabihin, kunin mo yung tao na akusado, dalhin mo sa korte or dalhin mo sa korte upang sa ganoon ay kanyang masagot ang mga aligasyon ibinabato sa kanya ng complainant. That's what we call an arrest. So who does the arrest? It should be the persons in authority. Okay? The arrest will take, okay, a particular person in the custody of the law. In the custody of the law, meaning to say, dalhin mo siya doon sa korte. Ano yung custody of law? Yung bang korte ang tinatawag natin custody of law? In custody of law, meaning to say, so that the court may acquire jurisdiction on his person. Upang sa ganoon, dalhin mo siya sa korte upang sa ganoon, ang korte ay magkaroon ng karapatan sa pagkatao noong akusado. Ibig sabihin that the court will already acquire the authority to direct of the accused. Like for example, the court would say you cannot go out of the country. Therefore, the court acquires jurisdiction upon him upon bringing him before the court. Mag-i-issue ang court ng whole departure order. The issuance of the whole departure order is already a manifestation or pagpapakita na ang korte ay merong jurisdiction and may authority on the person of that particular accused. Okay, that's what we call an arrest. Now let's go to the next term, which is illegal detention. Ano naman ang tinatawag nating illegal detention? It is the act of holding, okay, or taking a person in custody in violation of law, restricting him from his freedom or liberty to move. So, anumang klase ng pagkuha ng isang tao or pagkulong ng isang tao or kahit hindi mo sa physically na ikulong, okay? Meaning to say, you does acts, gumagawa ka ng mga bagay or ng mga acts upang sa ganoon ay ma-restrain mo or ma-prohibit mo ang isang tao na malayang gawin ang kanyang gustong gawin or malayang makapagkilos. Okay? That alone is what we call illegal detention. That is in violation of the law. You detain anybody, halimbawa, nasa loob kayo ng klase tapos uwian na. Ang ginawa mo, nilak mo, ikaw yung susunod sana, and will be the second person going out of the room. Pinakadulo na kayo, lahat na nakaalis na, dadalawa na lang kayo. Nung lumabas kayo, nilak mo yung pinto. For purposes of, anong gusto mong mangyari? Hindi makauwi yung kaklase mo. That alone, that act is restraining your classmate from his freedom to go out of the room, to go home. Restraining his freedom to do what he wants. Hindi siya makapag-CR, hindi siya makakain. It's because wala namang pagkain doon makalabas para kumuha ng pagkain. That alone is an act of what we call illegal detention. But before the detention falls into illegal detention, under the law, there is a required period or time frame. Hindi porket kinulong mo siya, 5 minutes lang naman, illegal detention na yon. Well, actually, detention yon. Okay? But, yung pag-restrain mo sa isang tao na gawin ang kanyang malayang pagkilos, na gumawa ng malayang pagkilos ay tinatawag nating detention. But whether or not that act of detaining that person falls into illegal detention, then you have to go deeper into the meaning of the term illegal detention. Okay? There is a prescribed period or hours or time frame in order for the act to qualify as an illegal detention. Hindi porket kinulong mo detention, illegal detention yan. Oh, dahil na-restrain yung freedom ko. 5 minutes lang naman, niloko ka lang, prank ka lang ng classmate mo. Illegal detention agad. Okay? So be very careful with that. Okay? Not all kinds of detention are illegal detention. Like for example, during war. Okay? Halimbawa, may war ang bansang Pilipinas at saka other country. Okay? In that kind, hindi lahat pinapalabas ang tao. Like for example, as of now, during the pandemic, okay, hindi tayo pwedeng lumabas ng kung kailan natin gusto. Because there are what we call quarantine periods. Bawa, nag-test ka ng positive, nilagay ka sa isolation unit doon sa Agbanawag, nakalagay ka doon. Pinagbabawal kang lumabas in the time from 14 days. Sabihin mo nga sa akin ngayon, illegal detention ba yun? Sasabihin mo, illegal detention yan ma'am kasi dinetain ako 14 days, nawala yung karapatan kong malayang kumilos. Kinulong ako sa isolation unit. Illegal detention ba yun? The answer is no. Okay? No. Because it is still within the time frame and there is a reason for you to be there. Okay? And it is a directive from the national government. Kailan din natin masasabi na there is an illegal detention? When the act of detaining the body of that particular person is solely for the purpose of restraining him from his freedom to move.